this year's budget is, it's basically an extension of last year's. So we've had a number of cuts that have been absorbed. I want to say the original level service, what was it, 2 years ago, right? Was cut by $4.6 million. This is an extension of that. There are, as things are starting to recover, there are some revenue is starting to come back, which is great. And with that revenue, we are able to restore some of, kind of a very limited amount, but some of the critical resource that you and I talked about the last time that I was here for the chairman's report. At that time, we had a $1.95 million override on the table. A very, kind of a, what would we say, about a quarter of that, maybe a little less of that is able to get restored. So with that additional revenue, we know kind of exactly where it needs to go because we've already identified kind of those critical areas that need to be filled so we can continue to move forward as a town. And so, while it will be, I think it's a step in the right direction, a baby step, but a step nonetheless.
How helpful, if at all, have been federal funds because of COVID-19? I know for some cities and towns, some of them haven't even used all the money yet because they're waiting for different things. How about Plainville?
So for us, it's been really helpful on the school side. So when they had to, do the hybrid learning, it was a huge help because they could, augment some of the staff and augment some of the technology. And on the town side as well, especially for our first responders. But when it comes to this budget, it really doesn't help us at all because you can't use COVID funds to just fund the regular day-to-day operating budget. But yeah, it helped us, and we used almost all of it, and will. I mean, we have till the end of this calendar year, and I expect we'll fully use everything we received. So I think it was helpful for sure.
I don't want to get into the failed overrides because if we do, we'll be here for 3 hours.
It'll just turn into a very sad show. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think towns like Plainville, before that, North Attleboro went 2 tries before a successful 3rd try. Unless residents actually see where they're starting to lose some of the services they used to, and it's a tribute to town leaders like yourselves that they haven't seen that. Moving forward, I mean, how about in this budget? Are people going to see the impact of a shortage of funds?
I think people will. I think we have over the last year. So, the things that are the small pieces that are being added back in here, which in no way represent what would have been added in had either override passed. We are still going to be operating at a level that is not only not ideal, it's not sustainable. So we've had a lot of employees leave. We're having trouble attracting employees to come here. Just because it is really difficult. You're working with less resources and less ability to get the job done. I mean, I think people are going to find it unacceptable to have 30 children in a class. And even with, some additional funds that are going to the local schools, you're still going to have 30 kids in a class. What we really saw that was dramatic this year was our response time. And we were very honest with the public and not trying to scare them, but the results have been realized, and folks are waiting 15 minutes sometimes for an ambulance to come. They're waiting for North Attleboro to come. They're waiting for Rentham to come. So the very first thing we did in this budget was add the second ambulance back in. And at the end of the day, regardless of overrides failing, I feel, and I know the board feels, that when people call 911, they expect that someone is going to show up in a reasonable amount of time, especially if you're having a heart attack or a stroke where those minutes really count. And then the other piece is we owe it to our public safety personnel to make sure they're safe when they are responding. So for us, public safety had to be the #1 priority right out of the gate. But you're still not operating at the levels that you should be across the board, without a doubt.